Humanity has been fighting for survival since the very dawn of time. Whether it was us fighting against nature, having to go out and forage for food, building shelter for ourselves, just to so we could reproduce and spawn more, or whether it was against animals fighting off the attacks and the onslaughts that they would throw at us in the more ancient times, or whether it was against ourselves, whether that be politically, during wars, or any other times. We have always had to fight for survival. But now our world is changing at a rate faster than it ever has before. We've always had to fight for our own survival, and now that fight is being carried over with the ideas of modernism more than ever before. Everyone knows that we live in troubling times. Our generation is the first to have to deal with the upfrontness and the severity of the fact that our planet's going through global warming. There's huge social upheaval. People want more equality, and we don't know how to give it to them. These are all things that modernism is hoping and trying to attack, though many people are so uninformed as to how you possibly could do it. This documentary is meant to deal with the world we live in today so that we can live for the future. Most documentaries, be them about aliens, about Egypt, the Nazis, anything, or whether it's about more futuristic things, they either take place in the past or the future, and very rarely delve into the present world that we live in. But this is about the world that we live in. This is about the severity of the world, that when you go outside, it's warmer than it was the day before. There's temperature changes in the world, and there's climate change, animals are going extinct, and the list goes on and on. Modernism is defined by Merriam-Webster as a tendency in theology to accommodate contemporary thought and especially to value supernatural elements. That's just one definition. There's also the definition of a modern artistic or literary philosophy and practice, especially a self-conscious break with the past and a search for new forms of expression. These two definitions really combine to give us the world that we live in today, and a world that you have to realize that it's not sustainable and that there needs to be upheaval at some point. To varying degrees, people will always argue, but there needs to be a change. And I think if you go out on the streets and you ask anybody that's not a politician or a big business owner or is living a very good life as is, that they will agree with you just by looking around at the world, seeing the harm that is being caused to it. My name is Chandler Blue, and I'm a freshman here at UNM. This documentary will be used primarily to show what people think modernism is and how they think that it can help or not help the world, and what they actually think is pertinent to the world and the issues that we face today. This isn't going to be giving you the answers to the world. This isn't going to show you the light at the end of the tunnel. It's merely to show you a brief screenshot of the community which we live in and how they think the world could be changed by modernism, and whether or not it actually needs to be changed at all. Of course, I'm going to try to stay away from people's own political views, given that those are so prevalent in today's culture with the elections coming up. But though it does tie into it, I don't want this to turn into a political debate, and I don't want this to turn into something other than the actual assignment itself, which of course is just giving its own feedback on modernism and how the world will ultimately be shaped by it at some point. Now, there's two main issues currently at the forefront of a more crisis of modernism, and that would be our day-to-day activities, more social justice based. So that's women's rights, black rights, really any minority against white people, and kind of the social norm that has been there really for as long as the Western world has been prevalent in the cultures. But the other idea of modernism would be more environmentally based. So that would be global warming, pesticides, GMOs, car emissions. You can name countless things that the government is scrambling to either defend, because more than likely it's being paid off by corporations that are backing it and lobbying for it, or they're scrambling to actually keep up with the corporations in banning them while keeping kind of a more neutral viewpoint on it, and also providing their own research into it to know whether or not it is a actual legitimate issue or not. So with these two issues, obviously some people will feel dependent on upbringing, economic status, myriad of things. Everybody's going to have their own opinion. But with this, I'm going to be asking students what their own views are and how they think that it can be better helped and better situated to the community that we live in now. For the sake of keeping everything linear and in the same manner, I'm going to ask the students that I interview the same base questions, and dependent on their actions, I'll elaborate on what some they may mean by that, or ask them whatever else to help elaborate. But the same questions will be asked to them in the base manner. So our first person that we're going to be interviewing is Cheyenne Feltz. She's a junior here at UNM, and she's a nursing major. All right, Cheyenne, I'm just going to ask you a few questions about modernism and kind of your own personal beliefs on the world right now. So first off, what do you believe modernism is?
So honestly, I thought modernism was a type of art. I assume it has something to do with how technology is changing the world and how communication between other countries is creating a more open view culturally. So you're more modern because you have a new view that incorporates so many different cultures. That's what I think it means.
So, I mean, you're not wrong. Modernism is kind of just the encompassing of everything that we live in with the modern world and what that entails, while trying to think of ways to kind of promote the future with it. Modernism is ever changing depending on the times that we live in.
Okay.
So, with that being said, do you believe that there's any threats that come along with modernism?
I think it would be cultural inawareness, just because things are so much more sensitive now, especially with politics and with conflicting political parties with a campaign coming up. So it's just, I don't know.
All right, Cheyenne, so with your concerns over kind of politics and everything like that, what do you think that they specifically need to address?
So I think a big one right now for everybody internationally is global warming, just because it's an issue that affects everybody, and the way we communicate and the way people talk about issues and social injustices needs to be addressed to fix that and remedy it in time to save our planet. Another thing would probably be social injustices. I know the pay gap between females and males in the workforce is something that's a huge issue right now, especially because women are up and coming in colleges and getting more degrees than men, and we're still receiving lower pay. So that's definitely a social problem. Another thing I think is the race problems we're having with our police forces. That's an issue that needs to be addressed.
All right, Cheyenne, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Our next interviewee is Pano Arguelles. He is a freshman here at UNM, and he is actually currently my roommate, which makes it really easy to interview him. So, Pano, what do you believe modernism is?
Honestly, I have no idea what modernism is.
Well, modernism is basically just a social movement. Dependent on where you are, it can be a bunch of different things. But it's basically just trying to create a more progressive, accepting environment for humanity as a whole. So, with that being said, do you believe that any part of kind of our current course as humans is threatening to us?
I think everyone's too offended by everything in today's culture. Everyone just wants to be super PC about everything, but, yeah.
And do you think any of that is actually threatening to our culture, or do you think that there's actually threats to the world as a whole as well?
Honestly, I feel that, our culture can grow from being accepting from other people's cultures, but also that people need to stop being so, in your face about it.
Mm-hmm.
Stop trying to make everyone
Believe in their
yeah,
kind
believe
of
in their
adhere to
beliefs.
their own beliefs.
Exactly. Not be not be biased towards any other beliefs or anything, but be super accepting.
Kind of have your own beliefs, but not necessarily shove it down other people's throat, which is in a lot of ways what many people are protesting that are very uninformed. Thank you so much, Peter, for your time.
Thank you.
So, as you can see, at UNM we have a myriad of different students with different beliefs and backgrounds, and that really plays into how people shape their own personal views. And luckily, for the sake of this brief documentary, they were two fairly conflicting views. But I think the big takeaway from it is that while one was more progressive than the other, they both believed that there was an issue with our modern society and that there needed to actually be change. And I think that's true for most everybody. I don't think anybody's truly content with the world as it is right now. So thank you for watching my documentary. I hope you have a great day.